Alright, this is a check of our homework last night. So, if we remember everything from our notes from yesterday, we're going to take a look at number 1 here. And first off, it's asking, is it a function? So, from our notes from yesterday, we saw that if we have repeated x values within any points, then it's not a function. So that's what we're looking for here. Well, we've got a 1, a -2, a -1, and a 1 for our x values. So because I have a repeated x value of 1, giving me 2 different outputs, one of them -2, one of them 3, this is not a function. So we're going to say no for function. And then what's our domain here? Well, we want to write all of our x values in increasing order. So the smallest x value we have is -2. Next up, we've got -1. And then finally that double 1, but we're only going to write it once. That's our domain. And our range is all of our y values from smallest to biggest. So, smallest number we have here is a -2. Next up, we've got 0. We have a 2 and a 3. That is our range. So our y values, -2, 0, 2, and 3. Next problem's exactly the same. So, is it a function? We're going to take a look at our x values. We've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There are no repeated x values. They are all different. So we're going to say yes, this is a function because we have a 1-to-1 relation going on here. Every input has exactly one output. And then our domain is just a list of our x values. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's the domain for this, what we now know is a function. And then we've got our range. So all of our y values for this. So first up, we've got a 1, and then a 2. So 1, 2. Next, we've got a 5, a 10, and a 15. And next again, is it a function? Number 3. So repeated x values here, we've got a 17, a 15 over 4. We see another 17, but that's a y value, so we're not gonna worry about it doubling up our x value there because that's a y value. So we've got 17, 15 over 4, 15, and 17 over 4. So no repeated x values. So yes, this is a function. Its domain is, let's see, all of our x values. What's the smallest one we have here? So 15 over 4 will be the smallest number. Looks like 17 over 4 will come next. And then 15, and then 17. So when we're listing our domain and range, we don't need them to match up with each other as they would as points. We just want to put them from smallest to biggest. And then our range, all of our y values, well, it looks like our range is the exact same as our domain, just all mixed up there. So we can just repeat this list. 15/4 from right there. Next up, we've got 17/4 because we want to go smallest to biggest here. Next up, we've got a 15, and next up, we've got a 17. And there it is. We don't have to do anything with those fractions. Those are just our x and y values here. And number 4 here, is it a function first? Well, our x values, if we've got a -3 and a -3, repeating x values of -3, so no, this cannot be a function. Even though it's not a function, we still got domain and range because that's just our x values for domain. So -3, it's doubled up in our list, but we only need to write it once. And then we've got 3/2, and then we have a 5. And my set closes, so there's my 3/2 and my 5. And our range for this is, let's see, I'm looking for the smallest number here, so looks like -5 is going to win for the smallest. And then we've got 2/5 right there and right there. And then we've got a 3/5, and that is our range, or our set of y values. All right, so now that we've seen that happen a bunch of times, we're going to move on to, I'm going to start going through these rather quickly here. But it's the exact same for any other type of data that we're given here for our points or our relation. So here we go. We're writing a relation, so remember that is just a written set of our points. So our relation here is, I'm just going to start listing off all of the xy pairs for points that we have here. So looks like -2, -2 is a point. -1, -1 is a point. One, 0. 1, 1 would be this guy. 3, -2. And finally that last point, oh, there's 3, -2, and finally that last point, 3, 3. And that's our relation. And then domain is just our x values from smallest to biggest. So I'm just going to name my x values going from left to right here. So domain, smallest one, we've got -2, and then a -1, a 1, and a 3. Remember, I don't repeat anything for my domain and range. Even though I have repetitions here, we don't repeat for our list. And then range, we're working our way upwards now, smallest to biggest, and we're just listing our y values. So smallest, -2. Next up, we've got 0, 1, and 3. And close it off. And is it a function? We're going to look through our relation, and we can see that we have a double up of x's for 1 and also for 3. So since I have repeating x values, this is not a function. No. And then same kind of deal. Relation is the set of points. Got -2, 3, 0, 1. So that was the first point. Second point, this guy is 2, -1, and finally 3, -2. All right, for our domain, that's our x values. So I'm working from left to right here. So smallest, -2, then 0, then 2, then 3. It's my domain, just my x values. And now we're doing our range, which is our set of y values. So we're working our way bottom to top here. And we've got -2, -1, 1, and 3. And that is our range here, our set of y values. Is it a function? Well, we go look at our relation. -2, 0, 2, 3. There's no repeated x's here. So yes, we have a function. Next page, same type of thing. So I'm going to work these super fast. Just be sure that you're hanging with me here as we write this out. So, list of points for relation. So we've got -2, 0, -1, 2, 0, 3, (1, 2), and 2, 0. And that's our list of points. Domain, x values, so we're working left to right here. -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Range. That was a bad curly Q. Let's rewrite that. So now we're working our y values, smallest to biggest. So smallest is 0, then we've got 2, and then 3. We don't repeat any values. Is it a function? All of my x's are different, all of my x values. So yes, this is a function. And this last one here, is it what's the relation? It's the set of points. So we've got -2, -4. -2, -2. -1, 1. 1, -2. And 3, 0. Domain, x values. So we're working left to right for domain. -2, -1, 1, and 3. That's all my x values for my points here. -2, -1, 1, and 3. Range is bottom to top for our y values. So -4, -2, 0, and 1. Yep, that seems to be our range. Is it a function? Well, I've got a -2 and a -2 repeating. So, no. We have repeated x values, repeated numbers in our domain. So this is not a function. Remember, y's can repeat, x's cannot. All right, and here we go. This should be super easy here because domain is just our set of x values. So I'm just looking at my x column. So we've got -2, 0, and 5. We have another -2, but we don't repeat it. And then range, we have -1, 3, and 4. Another 3, but I don't rewrite it. It's already accounted for here. Is it a function? Well, I've got a -2 and a -2, a repeated x value, so no. Domain is x values, so my set of x values is -1, 0, 2, and 3. Range, -1, 3, and 5, because the range is just my list of y values. Is it a function? Well, got -1, 0, 2, and 3. No repeated x values, so yes, this is a function. Domain, x, -1, 0, and 1. We've got another 0, but we don't need to repeat it. Range, -3, 7, and 10. Is it a function? 0 and 0 repeat, so no. We have x values that repeat, so not a function. And finally, once again, domain. We've got smallest to biggest here. So -1/2, 1/8, 1/4, and 1/2 is our domain, our set of x values. Our range, or our set of y values, is right here. Well, this is pretty simple. We have a bunch of repeating 2's, so 2 is the only output I get. Even though we repeat with our 2's, we're not worried about y's for is it a function. We don't worry about our y values. We're just worried about x. And I have no x's that repeat, so yes, this is a function. All right, that's the homework check. Feel free to email me. You guys have my email, this is Mr. Crozier, and I will get back to you with any questions that you have. So thanks, have a good day.